Our last speaker before lunch is an amazing woman, a Paralympian, and motivational speaker asking us to join the revolution. Please welcome to the stage Jessica Smith.
Thanks, Erin. So today I want to talk to you about body image and why that particular issue is having such a profoundly negative impact on so many people living within our population, and how we can be part of a change within our culture. Body image is often very misunderstood and misrepresented within society, and I think it's because we're not talking about those issues enough, and therefore we don't have a proper understanding of what it is that body image actually means. I'm sure when many of the people in this room hear the term body image, they think about looks, appearance, beauty, perfection, perhaps even vanity. It's so much more than that. Body image is actually how we think and feel about our bodies and about our appearance, and thoughts and feelings are the key words there. It's that mental picture that we have of ourselves. And so self-esteem and body image directly influence one another. Self-esteem is when we talk about how we value ourselves as a person, how we respect ourselves. And those things directly influence how we treat ourselves and how we take care of ourselves emotionally, spiritually and physically. So if we're hating our body, it's very hard to like ourselves as a person overall. Body image and body dissatisfaction is a leading cause of concern for females and males aged between 12 and 25 in this country. It's a very, very serious and complex issue. When we talk about body image, that's an issue that, if we're not feeling good about ourselves, can influence so many other areas of our life. And I have strong beliefs that those concerns among our youth and adolescents are the leading cause of, or are contributing to the increasing rates of self-harm, anxiety, depression, eating disorders and suicide. When we talk about eating disorders briefly, there's over 1 million people in this country living with a clinical eating disorder. And although that's at the very end of the spectrum when we talk about body image, it's something that I think we need to be aware of. And eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any clinical or any psychiatric illness. So again, very, very serious, and it's important that we talk more about these issues so that we have a better understanding. Certainly, we've made some incredible advancements and improvements as females in careers, in roles of leadership, as wives, mothers, elite sports people. But there's so much more that we can do, and especially in regards to supporting one another. Every single female in a position of power, or those predominant in the media, are always ridiculed about one common thing: the way that they look, their style, their dress, their makeup, their hair. We've seen prominent women on the screen earlier: Oprah Winfrey, Julia Gillard, Hillary Clinton, Kate Middleton. All of these women are ridiculed or scrutinised about their appearance. So we're sending a very, very strong message, and that definitely comes from the media, but we all start to believe that. We're listening to the speakers before about that internal dialogue, what we see, what we're exposed to, what we learn, and how we then create that reality for ourselves and for those around us. It was funny, I don't know if anyone saw President Obama in his beige suit the other week. That's an example of him being, I guess, brutalised by the media and perhaps experiencing what it's like to be a female, because I don't remember anything that he said in his presentation, but I certainly remember what he wore. As a culture, women are brought up to fundamentally feel insecure, and more young girls are learning to see their body as an object. I was born missing my left arm, and to this day there's no explanation as to why that happened. It's just one of those things. And the doctors told my parents to have me fitted with a prosthetic limb because that was going to make me have a normal childhood. But back in the early 80s, prosthetic limbs are nothing like what they are today. It was this hideous contraption that was like a claw, and it wrapped all around my body and shoulders, and it was a huge hindrance. And at 18 months old, that was my first arm. And I walked into the kitchen. My mum had just boiled the kettle, and I reached up to grab what I thought was a biscuit, but obviously not being able to feel or detect heat, I knocked the kettle down onto myself, and I suffered third-degree burns to 15% of my body. I'm very lucky that it didn't get my face. I was rushed to Sydney Children's Hospital, where I underwent blood transfusions, skin grafts, and I remained in hospital for the next 10 weeks and had to have ongoing therapy for the next 2 years to help heal the scars. Now, I don't remember anything about those specific times, but growing up, having a different physical appearance was a constant reminder that I was fundamentally different. And I took that to believe that I wasn't good enough as a person and I wasn't worthy enough as a person. I certainly didn't look like the models and celebrities that I saw in the magazines or on television. So again, I internalised all of that. And I convinced myself that if I could change everything else about my appearance, what I could control, my arm was never going to grow back and the scars were always going to be there. So I believed that if I could maybe lose a little bit of weight, have that perfect body in every other way, maybe people would see past my obvious imperfections. Maybe then I'd be accepted and maybe then I'd be happy. So I started dieting, which eventually led to periods of starving and binging. And before I knew it, I was trapped in this vicious, addictive cycle of an eating disorder. And I suffered with bulimia and anorexia for over a decade. But I was also a high achiever. I was an A-grade student, very successful at school, and also a successful Paralympic swimmer. And I represented Australia from the age of 13 to 20. But unfortunately, my desire and that, striving for beauty and perfection became all too consuming. And it's obviously a lot more than just that pursuit for beauty and perfection. It was a mental illness that I was dealing with as well. But it ultimately cost me my swimming career and almost cost me my life. The most common way women give up on power is believing that they don't have any. My story is one of thousands, and we are all pressured by society and the media to feel as though we have to conform to a certain ideal when it comes to the way that we look and the way that we present ourselves. And certainly image is important, but it has to come from that authenticity. It has to come from a place of self-esteem and self-confidence, and that's what we have to be able to work on. So during my recovery, I knew that I had to do more. I knew that I had a responsibility to be a voice for other people who were struggling and to also give back to the people who formed part of my support network. So body image, as you can imagine, is a very complex issue, and I realised that there was an urgent need to focus at the grassroots, to go out and talk to young girls in particular. And so I decided to quit my job. I have a science degree and I've been working in medical research for a long time. But I wanted to mentor young women. I wanted to, and I do, go out into schools to share my story, to simply engage and connect with young women so that they can see. It's important that young women see inspiration. If they can see somebody else that's doing it, that gives them the hope that they can achieve that as well. They need to be able to have those examples. And so being able to connect with young people, to encourage and empower them to know that they're worth more than a number on a scale. And to give them the idea that they don't have to focus on youth, beauty and sexuality in order to be valued as a human being, and encourage them to learn about the capacity that they all have to be leaders and game changers in this world. Media manipulates women, makes us feel insecure about ourselves so that we go out and buy a product. Or worse, it sexualises us to encourage men to buy a product. And these days, media is definitely the primary storyteller. But rather than, there's many pros and cons that can happen with that, but rather than see it as a negative, we have to be able to look at different avenues as a form of a solution. So when we talk about media and social media in particular, it's such a great way of bringing people together. And it has so many opportunities and possibilities to implement change. So as well as going out and talking to young people and mentoring young girls in particular, I wanted to create a community where they felt safe to have their voices heard on a global scale. So I created a campaign called Join the Revolution. It's a very simple but effective campaign that uses social media as a positive platform to communicate about these issues, and to be able to give young people that voice. I don't know if many of you have seen the stall downstairs, but the idea is you take a photo holding the Join the Revolution sign and upload it to social media with a few hashtags. And if you were to Google that now, I guarantee you would find it. It was Body Image Awareness Week last week, and there were hundreds of thousands of images uploaded with the hashtag Join the Revolution and Stop Hating Your Body. And this just goes to show to me that this is an issue that young people do want to talk about. So we have to give them the space to be able to do that. And I think I've got some slides to show you. Imagine if young girls could focus less... Did that work? Oh, okay. I think it's meant to do it. Okay. Imagine if young girls could focus less on beauty, youth and perfection, and instead focus that energy into their well-being and their self-esteem, and channel their creativity into education and their capacity to be leaders. What a different world I think we would see and be living in. So far this year, I've spoken to over 1,000 students in WA alone, but I need to do more. And I'm not afraid to say that I need your help to be able to do that. I need to be able to go out into rural and remote communities and engage with the young girls there, as well as metropolitan, because young people have a voice and they definitely need to be heard. And just because improvements have been made doesn't mean that I stop. If anything, it means that this is working and I have to keep going. And I'm hoping that I can have the support of the rest of this state and country to be able to do that. Our current culture still discriminates against women. And the only way we can create change is if we're part of that change. And we all have that responsibility. And so I know I don't have much time, but in closing, I just want to say, you might be all asking, what's this got to do with me? Why should I join Jess and this movement and this revolution? What's it got to do with money? It affects every single one of you. It affects your colleagues, your family, your daughters, your sisters, your aunts, your mothers, their future and your future. So it is very, very important. And why today? Because tomorrow is just not soon enough. So I encourage you to follow me on social media, pick up one of the signs and get involved in that movement, because when young people see you doing it, it gives them permission to do it as well. So thank you.